Do lamprey taste like chicken? Why are there dead fish watching up on the shore? Where do Great Lake salmon go during that special time of year? To find out, let's ask Dr. Fish.
That's right, it's Ask Dr. Fish, a brand new streaming show from Gobi Dog Media, Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, and Wisconsin Sea Grant. We're so happy to be here for this, our very first episode. My name is Stuart Carlton. I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a non-COVID cold. And I forgot about getting sick. Just plain old getting sick, because it's been like 2 years. It stinks. And then getting sick the weekend before you're launching your new live show, not ideal, but that's where we are. Anyway, my name is Stuart Carlton with Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. I want to introduce our two Doctors Fish. First of all, we have Katie O'Reilly. Katie, how's it going?
It is going great, Stuart. I am so excited to talk about all things fish today.
I am also excited to talk about it. And Katie is now, we're proud to announce this. Katie is also, how do I shut the music up? Gee whiz. Good enough. Stop playing music. Yes. Thank you, Quinn. Katie O'Reilly, she is our aquatic invasive species specialist. We're very happy to announce at Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. We also have Titus Seilheimer here. Titus, also a Dr. Fish. How's it going, Titus?
Good morning. It's great. Another great day talking about fish.
Another great day talking about fish. And then finally, last but certainly not least, we have the finest research coordinator in all the Sea Grant Network, Carolyn Foley. How's it going, Carolyn?
I am doing well, and thank you for that kind introduction, but I will clarify, I am not a Dr. Fish.
Not a Dr. Fish. That's okay, neither am I. It's fine. We have two Doctors Fish. Those will try to take us through the day. Great. So this is our very first episode. It's going to be a new live streaming episode that will be on the second Monday of every month at 11. You can join us here on YouTube. The link might change around for the first few weeks. We will figure out what it's going to look like and let you know. And then, these first few times it's going to be a little bit shaggy, right? This is a Gobi Dog Media production. That means it's going to be a little bit shaggy. It's going to be a little bit by the seat of the pants. And for people who like us, that's one thing they like about us. And for people who don't like it, well, there's a very limiting factor. And we're just dealing with that as far as we can. And so the idea is that, we're going to stream this live every month. And then what we'll do is we'll also release it as a podcast. And so you can go to askdrfish.transistor.fm to subscribe to the podcast, or just look in your podcast feeder, podcast player. And that's where you'll see it. And you can also, though, if you are joining us live, go ahead and use you can either type into the chat box on YouTube or on Twitter. You can use the hashtag AskDrFish, and we'll be monitoring that to take your live questions. So if you want to, completely derail the show, I highly recommend it. And this is your chance to do it. Because, there's no fish question, no science question, no life question that is too hard for our Doctors Fish. Well, let's get going right away. And this first question, I think, comes straight from Lake Michigan itself. And that is this. There's a news story. Carolyn, can you do this news story? I really have to shut up. Sorry.
Sure thing, Stuart. So there's a news story about sending lamprey over to the UK because people like to eat pies in the UK. So a Michigan man is preparing to ship invasive blood-sucking lamprey over to England because they enjoy it there. So question for the Doctor's Fish. Have you eaten lamprey before?
I can jump in first. I have not eaten lamprey, but I would be interested to hear if Titus has, because I do wonder if it tastes like chicken.
Yeah, unfortunately, I have not eaten lamprey either, but I definitely would be up for trying to eat some lamprey. I've heard, some rumors about preparation techniques in the Great Lakes that people do, but I have not had that opportunity yet.
So, what type of preparation techniques have you heard about in the Great Lakes?
So this is from Lars Redstrom at Cornell University, scientist there. And he will, I think you kind of parboil it first, and then you can peel the skin off because you don't want to eat that. And then you can just chop it up into kind of chunks because it's a cartilaginous fish, so you don't have to worry about bones. and then you can kind of cook that in like a stew, lamprey stew.
No.
So
Huh.
yeah, popular in Portugal, I believe. That's how they eat them over there.
Interesting. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about a couple of countries in Europe. So what's the deal with lampreys in the Great Lakes?
Ooh, that is a multi-layered question. So, first kind of aspect is what kind of lampreys are you talking about? Because when we say like these blood-sucking, parasites, often people are talking about the non-native sea lamprey, which is obviously a big threat to the Great Lakes. It entered into the lakes, via some of the canals that were built because it's native to the Atlantic coast. When it came to the Great Lakes, it caused a lot of problems because they obviously are parasitic and they attach to some of the top predator fish and can actually cause a lot of damage. They, really did a number on the lake trout populations in the mid 20th century in the Great Lakes. But we also have native lamprey species, which a lot of people don't know about. There's 4 other species of lamprey that are much smaller, but are native to the lakes, and not all of them are parasitic. Some of them don't attach to other fish when they're adults. And so, yes, sea lamprey, what's the deal with sea lamprey is they're bad. They, have had really negative effects on the Great Lakes ecosystems, but not all lampreys are sea lampreys.
So
yeah,
Titus,
I jump. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Stuart.
no, you go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna just talking about sea lampreys in the Great Lakes. They are really peak populations kind of hit the Great Lakes with sea lamprey in the mid 20th century. And Katie mentioned really big impacts on lake trout, and for Lake Michigan by kind of the 1950s, mid 1950s, late 1950s, lake trout are extirpated. They're basically locally extinct from Lake Michigan. Sea lamprey play a large role in that, and at sort of peak population levels of sea lamprey, it was hundreds of thousands per lake. And the math you can do on that is one adult sea lamprey to get to kind of adult size, they will kill about 40 pounds of fish. So, you can do the math there, are hundreds of thousands. That was, that's millions of pounds of fish kind of being lost to sea lamprey predation around the Great Lakes. And that's big ecological and economic impacts.
And so
question about the lamprey that are being eaten in the Great Lakes, and the ones, are they eating the native species or the invasives or both?
yeah, if I want to
When you heard
parboil
about-
right, I'm going to go parboil
Yeah.
a lamprey, which sounds just lovely.
Do you know that, Titus?
Well,
Or Katie?
I'll let Titus go since he's the one with the inside knowledge of the Great Lakes lamprey fishery.
Yeah, it's definitely it is the sea lamprey, the invasive sea lamprey, and they have others have looked at actually could sea lamprey be an export from the Great Lakes, because they historically have been very abundant, and so Europeans would like to eat them. We don't want them in the Great Lakes, and the challenge here is mercury levels, especially Lake Superior. Sea lamprey just have kind of bonkers levels of mercury
Really?
for whatever reason. I mean, they are top predators, so they are feeding on the top predators. So, just bioaccumulating a lot of mercury, which makes it a challenge to export, unless it's like 5 lamprey, so that the king can have a lamprey pie in some ceremonial
Yeah, sure.
way.
There might be a use for that. So is it but they suck the blood, right? So it's like they're going straight to the source of the mercury, I suppose.
Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of blood and associated tissues. It's like almost a slurry of fish that they get.
Blood and fluids and all the good stuff.
Yeah.
You just it's like you stick a straw into a fish, and then you just suck out all the deliciousness, basematic stuff.
Reminds me of like a Capri Sun. You just stick a straw in a fish.
Yep.
That sounds
All right, perfect. Let's move on to the next question.
No, we can't move on. We can't move on until we've talked about King Henry I. Died
Okay.
in 1135 from eating a surfeit of eels.
really
Oh, okay.
all right.
Died in 1135 eating a surfeit of lampreys. So he really loved eating sea lampreys. King Henry I, and then he died, and that's the official cause of death. Too many lamprey.
Too many lampreys.
Too many lampreys.
Too many that had themselves a slurry, and there's just a wealth of wonderful images right now. Okay, next question for our Dr. Fishes. So in California, bumblebees are considered fish under their Endangered Species Act. This was a recent ruling. So this, from the article, the CESA itself does not define fish, but the law is part of the California Fish and Game Code. The code's definition includes any mollusk, crustacean, invertebrate, or amphibian. All those categories encompass terrestrial and aquatic species, and the state legislature has already approved the listing of at least one land-based mollusk. So, are bees fish?
I'm going to come down on the side of no, they're not fish, but certainly that case in particular, they need to change their definition to include invertebrates for listing. It's sort of a short-sighted thing, if you ask me.
Well, it says more.
Yeah, and I'll just go ahead.
No, you please go for it.
No, I was just going to say, I feel like this is a little beyond my pay grade as an Ask Dr. Fish, because I am not a lawyer and I am also not a philosopher.
Right.
What makes a fish? And legally, this is a way for this bumblebee to try and get protection. But I feel like this is a place where science and law may have diverging opinions based on language.
But this is tricky, right? And so it sounds like they're using this as just a pathway to get the thing through. But is a lamprey a fish?
Yes.
Come on, Katie.
Is a shark
Yeah,
a fish?
yeah. So
Right.
Yeah, a shark.
I mean,
Is a
is a
stingray
fish.
a fish? Yeah.
A stinger
yeah,
is a
and
fish. Yeah.
sea lamprey, they are fish. I consider them fish.
They're fish, yeah.
If you look at the phylogenetic tree of lampreys, I mean, they branched off before animals had jaws, so
Right.
they're really old. So before fish existed, there were lamprey. So maybe all fish are lamprey. I don't know.
That's a good-
Are we all lamprey?
And they-
I don't know. Yeah.
And so it's not Ask Doctor knows about invertebrates, it's Ask Dr. Fish. But I will say that bees are a pretty highly evolved invertebrate too, right? So if you really got into some fun trees, you could get into.
They're
So
pretty clever.
yeah.
So our official
So,
position is not a fish, right?
I
Well,
would say bees are not a fish.
Bees are not a fish.
Yeah, I think we can agree on that. And
But
it's a funny
Please
definition
do not
too.
cite
Like,
me in any California law cases.
Right.
Yes.
Just in advance.
expert testimony offered on
This is
Nope,
not
nope,
Ask Dr. Fish.
no, there are other people who can weigh in that way. Okay.
Definitely.
So, does anyone else want to comment on what makes a fish a fish? Katie already sort of said, I don't know, that's a philosophical question. But
Yeah, I look for gills. I look for fins. Lives in the water most of the time.
Yeah. Some of the other things, that people think of with fish, cold-blooded, they have a backbone. But the fun part about fish, and, this is where we get into the rabbit hole, is there are often exceptions to those rules because we say like, okay, all fish have a backbone. Well, hagfish don't technically have a backbone. They have like a notochord, which if you're splitting hairs is not vertebrae. And then you talk about cold-blooded, there's some species of fish like tuna that can actually warm their blood a bit. So even though we have these sort of hard and fast rules about what makes a fish, you always have some weirdos who are the exceptions.
Okay, I don't want to go too far down this rat hole, but how does tuna warm their blood? What is that deal?
So basically, in order to get their really high swimming speeds, they have like a system of circulation that it kind of warms their blood enough that they can maintain these really intense bursts of speed. So it's not true like warm blooded like us generating heat, but it's a system of like circulation within their blood.
That's kind of harvesting that heat from their own bodies
Yeah.
and then recirculating it so that they can keep that, maintain it.
What? That's extremely cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
But
next
not
up,
about
is
Great Lakes
extremely-
fish species.
no. That's where we're moving on. Moving on.
That's okay. We can ask Dr. Fish about any fish. That's cool. Okay. I do believe we have a video question.
Yep,
Stuart.
let's cue the video.
Titus, we are up here at Arcadia, and there are a ton of these little fish, dead fish on the shore.
All right, a lot of dead fish. Let's take one more look at that.
We
So
are
I'm seeing
up
these
here
dead fish.
at Arcadia.
Looks like some sort of clupid, if I
and there
remember
are a ton
my
of these little fish, dead fish on the shore.
ichthyology course.
Yes, indeed. A member of the herring family there. So those are alewives.
Alewives.
So typically, we see dead alewives on the beach kind of every year. This 2022 was actually a bigger year, at least in Lake Michigan. We saw, like, I've been here for 10 years, and it's the most I've ever seen living in Manitowoc. So they are non-native to the Great Lakes, similar to the sea lamprey story. They took advantage of those canals, moved upstream, just like the lampreys did, native to the North Atlantic, and spread out through the Great Lakes. And they come into spawn near shore and in tributaries in the spring, early summer, and just have this tendency to die off in the Great Lakes in kind of numbers. So not an unusual sight. This year was particularly stinky, though.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback off what Titus said. We haven't seen big alewife die-offs like this, in recent memory, but back in like the 1960s, 1970s, when alewife numbers were a lot higher in the lakes, particularly in Lake Michigan, there are, pictures and accounts of just piles of dead alewife rolling up on beaches to the point of where in the Chicago area, some of the public beaches had to like have heavy machinery come in and lift up these piles of dead, stinky, rotting fish. So, yes, this is a lot of fish, but it kind of pales into some of the numbers we've had in past decades.
Yeah, and the to call back to the sea lamprey story and the lake trout story, alewives really were able to take advantage of that. The extra like losing lake trout in Lake Michigan. Lake trout's the top predator. Also, kind of overfishing and pollution impacted the ciscos and the other kind of competitor fish they would have, the planktivores. Really allowed alewives to, just their populations exploded in the mid 20th century because no competition, not much predation, and our number we look at is like 90% of the fish biomass in Lake Michigan was alewives. So that is, that's just not a balanced ecosystem. And, those numbers have declined over time. And part of that's, there was pretty intense commercial fishing for a couple decades where they were harvesting alewives and then turning them into things like fish meal, pet food. The oil was taken off and taken to Chicago where it was turned into paint. So if your cat really likes your old oil paint, maybe it's alewives. And then those numbers have declined as well because of salmon like to eat them, trout like to eat them too.
Okay, so we're back on asking about questions about eating various animals eating fish, and there is a question from Sharon on the YouTube. What was the last fish you ate? Katie first.
It's been a little bit of time, but I think I had some smoked salmon. So that wasn't necessarily a local, I don't believe it was local salmon, which, is kind of a shameful admission for a Great Lakes scientist to say. But yeah, smoked salmon, I'd say, was probably my last.
This is Ask Dr. Fish. There are fish outside of the Great Lakes.
There are fish outside the Great Lakes.
Okay, over to Titus. What was the last fish you ate?
Well, I actually ate this with Sharon. So it was Lake Superior whitefish from Red Cliff Fish Company in Red Cliff, Wisconsin, and that was a delicious fish taco. It was incredible, and a kind of smoked farm raised rainbow trout spread as well. So
Very nice. Yeah.
Yum.
So I can actually say that I'm pretty sure the last fish I ate was also Lake Superior whitefish or something like that, because it was the mix that you had at Sea Grant Week in Cleveland that I snuck by your room and was eating some of it, and it was awesome.
I did not find out
well,
about
thank you.
this. Wait a
Thank you for
minute.
stopping by and trying that. Yeah, local. I think that was probably Lake Michigan smoked whitefish, but yeah.
Delicious.
Titus doesn't travel anywhere without Great Lakes fish samples to give out.
All right, learning this.
yeah.
Always in your carry-on.
That's good.
It was
Why
awesome.
not?
It was
Let's eat fish.
Let's do it. And I'm having trouble speaking because of my cold, but canned tuna yesterday lunch. It was good.
nice. Okay, I think we may have another video question, Stuart.
And so look at this. This is from our friends at the Washington State DNR, which is a really fun Twitter follow. And they sent us these cool videos of salmon running up and spawning here.
Yeah, that's it's the picture of persistence there.
Yeah.
Not a very big creek.
I was gonna say it's a great way, Monday morning. I feel like that salmon trying to go upstream, getting through my email inbox.
That's your fault for checking email. You should never do that. But,
I was gonna say, he's more successful going upstream. We'll just say that.
So I have a question. What do we know about salmon spawning, first of all, in general, right? I mean, you see the video of them jumping up and getting eaten by the bears and all that. But what I remember as a kid is maybe they weren't really sure how salmon made it up to the stream where they were born. What's the latest on that? Because I was a kid, a bit ago at this point.
Well, smell. They follow their nose, at least for the last part of their journey, and they, like in the oceans, just these huge migrations. Thousands of kilometers going out in the ocean, but they find their way back, and then they follow their nose back to where they came from.
Yeah, and so they kind of use a bunch of different senses. Like Titus said, the nose is a big one. They sort of imprint on the scent of the stream where they're born to help guide them back. But, when you're out in the ocean, it can be tough to know a single stream scent. And so there's also been evidence in the last decade or so that they actually kind of use the Earth's magnetic field to help orient them too, similar to migrating birds, to at least help get them close enough to where the scent, like Titus said, can then help them get up to that birth stream. So they're pretty remarkable, using all these different senses to
How do they
back to
sense
the
the
very
magnetic
stream
field? Is that like a lateral line thing, or what do they use to sense that?
I think the evidence was that it was a lateral line thing, but I wouldn't say I know 100%.
Yeah, and it's really cool. Like when you look at a fish coming out of Washington State. So that fish is going out, it's going north, and it actually goes up the Pacific coast, goes, along the Aleutian Islands, circles out in the ocean. And this is like a multi-year thing. It's not like these baby fish know where they're going. Like they haven't done this before. They do it one time.
Yeah.
And it's this multi-year big loop. And then they, they end up back where they're supposed to be, usually at the right time, and then they kind of know it's time to go upstream, and that's my stream right there.
So, do salmon in the Great Lakes do this as well? And where, if they do it?
So yeah, so even though Pacific salmon are not native to the Great Lakes, they were introduced back again mid 20th century when a lot of things were happening, as we've talked about. But they do, in many cases, return to streams either that they were planted in from being raised in hatcheries. There is some wild reproduction,
Quite a bit
depending
of
on the different
wild
species. Yeah,
reproduction.
I was gonna say, yeah, quite a bit of wild reproduction that started happening, that started, and so we often have tributaries to the Great Lakes, even very small streams, that salmon make their way up. And I'm sure, Titus, you've got streams in Wisconsin that you probably have some salmon coming up. I know we have a lot in Michigan.
Yeah, definitely Michigan is,
Yeah.
for us in Lake Michigan, so we have the stocked fish, and what a lot of our fishing clubs do now is they'll put out these net pens. So instead of stocking directly into the rivers, they'll stock these little trout into these pens, and then let them sit there for 2 or 3 weeks with the idea they can get a little bigger, they can release them at a good time, and they can imprint a bit more on their stocking location. Because for us in Wisconsin, we really want to look for those fish to come back in fall. Because right now we've got salmon, coming in, and I've gone to kind of a fairly small stream just right in town here, and saw some salmon swimming under the bridge, saw some salmon jumping out in the water, and that's a small tributary, but because we have a lot of agriculture, not a lot of, our water quality isn't great, our spawning habitat isn't great in this part of Wisconsin. A lot of the natural reproduced fish are coming from kind of northern Michigan, the Canadian side of Lake Huron as well. If you have lots of forests, clear water, cold water, lots of gravel, that's a nice place for a salmon to go.
And speaking of which, Titus, that was a great segue to Tim's question I see up here on the screen. Speaking of salmon, can we talk about the differences between salmon that spawn in Wisconsin's tributaries to Lake Michigan versus Michigan's tributaries, and why are some places successful and not others? And I feel like, Titus, you really answered a lot of that they have habitats that help them, be a little bit more successful in their spawning. And the other thing is not only the habitat itself being nice, quote unquote, but having like cold water, a gravel bottom, but also can the fish access that habitat? Some habitats or some streams are blocked by like low-head dams, they're blocked by culverts, and so fish may not be able to access habitat even if it is good habitat upstream. So that is a difference too. And I don't know the exact distribution of all the dams, but I know a lot of the Great Lakes tributaries have these low head dams and culverts that can prevent fish from getting to habitat.
So
yeah, fish passage is go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you talk a little bit about different projects that are going on around the Great Lakes or in other parts of the world, if you know of any, to sort of help fish get by anyway, or things like that? Can you guys share a couple of those?
Yeah, there's a lot of work, for things like culverts, like especially with infrastructure. Like we've got a lot of infrastructure issues right now. There's also a lot of funding for infrastructure. So, I think a lot of groups are identifying where the culverts are. A lot of them are too small. So if your culvert is too small, the water goes through it too quickly, and that can be a barrier for fish passage. So identifying those and then replacing them with a better type of culvert that's more suited to the stream. It's also a challenge. It's a trade-off. Like we can improve fish passage for desirable species, but you also don't want to open up the habitat for things like round gobies that like to move upstream. For the sea lamprey that we've talked about, they like similar habitats too. So it's definitely it's a balance between, you know, what we're protecting, and because you've seen those pictures of salmon jumping, like a lowhead dam that could block a lamprey is usually not a barrier for a trout or a salmon. They can just jump right over that.
Right. And for some of the bigger dams, in some places, you know, if they're older dams, there's talk of, you know, is this worthwhile to remove? But in other cases, if a dam's still functioning, in not as much in the Great Lakes, there's a few places, but like I'm thinking on the West Coast, the building of fish ladders that help salmon get past these higher dams that they can't jump over. And even for other species, I was just reading about the other day up in Titus's neck of the woods, there's a elevator to help lake sturgeon pass dams in I want to say the Menominee River, but and then so I love the visual also of a elevator for sturgeon to help them get to habitat above a dam. So there are ways that for dams that can't be removed to help fish pass.
What was the
And
name
Katie, if they swim up to the door and they actually have to hit it with their snout.
No.
Hit the up button.
No, that's not true.
No, it's not true.
And then there's an attendant.
Yes.
Yeah, there's an attendant in the elevator that asks, you know, which floor. Or, yeah.
This is where we're suffering.
Yeah, and that is a cool example. And those are functioning like power generating dams. So not something we're going to remove, but how can we get those sturgeon to habitat upstream? And they will actually truck them in trucks. They put them into these trucks and take them up past another dam too. So that opens up more habitat. But with dams, especially, there's a lot of really old dams that just aren't used anymore. And, you know, some of these, it's like, well, you can spend $1 million to like repair it for a dam that hasn't been used as a mill dam for over 100 years, or you can remove it for half that. So some interesting discussions there for, say, if you live on one of these ponds, you like the pond, but who wants to pay for that?
What was the name of that river?
It's the Menominee River.
What?
No, Menominee.
I'm too sick to do it. I'm too sick to do it.
Menomina.
Menominee. Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So this is really cool, and I really enjoyed thinking about who would be the attendant and things like that if they were in the elevator. But that's and yeah, and I think
it would be a white sucker wearing that little attendance hat, I think.
Perfect. Okay, so let's switch to a different question, because there is a question on YouTube, and we also had there's a huge story in the news right now that there was a cheating scandal in a walleye tournament where some people were actually putting weights into their fish.
And this is video that we cannot play on Soccer Fish.
Yes. So there's a question in here that I'm I'm not going to read, but why do people cheat at fishing tournaments?
Big money. Big money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually, for someone who's not like in the professional fishing world, which probably not too many of us are, but like it's surprising. There's a lot of money involved. There's the ability, like winning boats. There's sponsorship deals. So there is a lot at stake in a lot of these competitions. So you can see why it would be attractive to win.
Okay, so they cheated by adding lead weights. How many lead weights, I don't know if you guys know the weight of lead, but how much weight would you need to add to make a difference and put you over the top, do you think?
Because I'm thinking, like, when I went fishing with my dad, we put like 1/4 ounce lead weights. It was like this big. Is that enough, or these need some big suckers in there?
Yeah, I mean, usually it's a total weight, for like you got your 5 fish, and the highest weight wins. So, the more weight you can add, it kind of bumps you over that. But you also don't want to be too obvious about it, right? You got to be, it's got to seem plausible. You
Well,
don't
so this
wanna
is my
have
question.
fish
Carolyn
that
won't ask
weighs,
this,
like-
but I will. And I apologize again for my voice. Let's say hypothetically, I knew somebody who wanted to enter a fishing tournament and win it by cheating, and win $300,000 of boats and prizes and everything, purely hypothetically. What would be a better way to do this so that I or whomever wouldn't get caught? Using your fish knowledge.
Using secret fish knowledge. Well,
Secret fish.
I would say at least in other competitions, what some things that come up as common cheating strategies are typically like fishing outside the bounds of
Okay.
the tournament. So maybe you catch a fish from a lake that's outside the bounds of the tournament where the fish typically grow bigger. That's one way of doing it. Another way is sort of having a plant. So you might have like a friend in another boat hand over a larger fish that they caught earlier, like outside of the time limits of the thing. So ones that don't necessarily involve changing your fish catch, but changing it by adding weight is what I mean.
All right.
Yeah, and what I would do is, and a lot of this is inspired by Carl Hyacint's book Double Whammy, which is actually about cheating and bass fishing in Florida, which is a fun book if you like Carl Hyacin. But what I would do, I would get some the biggest walleye I can find. I might grow them a bit in an indoor aquaculture situation, really grow them out, really get them fat, and then I would plant them on the bottom, and then I would either use some kind of ROV to release them, or I would get a scuba diver to hook them up to my my lure. And again, this is not we are not advocating for this. This is just hypothetically something you could do.
That's perfect.
Because we're very intelligent people. All right, so now I have so many questions. So how long would the person need to stay down there to let your walleye go?
I mean, I guess
it
depends. Yeah, you gotta coordinate this thing ahead of time. You gotta, make sure you and your dive buddy are on the same page.
Right, and you can't catch all your fish in the same place. You couldn't just like pull up five fish from the same location. You'd have to have kind of multiple areas, and maybe this scuba diver would have to head over, and you would want to have a rebreather system because you don't want to have the telltale bubbles coming up. So you got to have this. It's got to be pretty subtle, and you also don't want with the technology of fish finders today. I assume that if somebody else was fishing there, they would see this. The image would pop up of like this scuba diver swimming underneath this competitor's boat. So you would have to avoid that as well. And maybe you would, you could actually drop something down so that they could tow the diver to another place.
See, now we're starting to get somewhere. That's good.
Yeah, and you'd probably have to split a bunch of your win with this person or these people, right? Okay, so I do have one other question for Wall.
$50,000 from a $300,000 prize. It seems like it's just a smart investment.
Yeah, that's
not advocating.
No, not advocating, but $50,000 is
not advocating.
Nothing to. Yeah. So one other question about walleye specifically, if you wanted to grow them, say you wanted to grow walleye locally, what would you do to make them grow really big, really fat, really fast?
Well, I can actually I'll throw this up to some of our research we're funding, because we're actually funding some research from the Northern Aquaculture Demonstration Facility up in Bayfield, Wisconsin, who they're actually looking at indoor production in recirculating systems of walleye. So, you would dial in the right temperature, and there's like an optimal temperature where things will grow and continue to grow. You could probably manipulate the daylight so that you could keep them growing, so they wouldn't have that kind of winter
some photo period
and then
I like it. Yeah,
exactly. And then you just pump them in with enough food, and they would just balloon up to be like the largest walleye anyone's ever seen, which is also a risk. You don't want to do that because you could if you caught this world record walleye, people are going to start scrutinizing it and probably pull tissue samples, or you could actually tell that it's been fed fish feed probably.
And these dudes, and you have to pass a polygraph, right? And these dudes about got
And-
they about got a whooping, I guess we'll say. Yeah.
Just
Oh
about.
yeah, it was. The audience was not happy, to say the least.
It's $350,000.
I suppose that's fair though. And I will say, we're kind of wrapping things back together because if you're talking about changing the daylight, then you're back to how do you stop things from moving around and stuff like that. But okay, so unfortunately we are nearing the end of our hour. This has been a lovely chat and we've gotten to ask some questions and we hope to do this again in the future. But to wrap up, I think we were going to play 20 questions. Is that right,
Yep,
Stuart?
we're going to play 20 questions.
Okay.
And really, a lot of people would say that it's kind of like a mano get together, like one against another, I think. Wouldn't they?
Yes, they would. Yes, they
People
would.
do say that. Yes, yeah.
I just want to say I'm imagining all the video opportunities for the future for this section.
Oh,
Dr. Katie, Dr. Titus, who will win today?
All right, it's 20
It's
questions.
a quick.
So, Carolyn, you'll have to introduce this. I apologize, live audience. But I think what we did last time was Katie.
One sec, I think Katie's
Yeah.
going to say something.
Oh, I'm
Hi,
sorry.
Katie.
Oh no, I was just gonna say it's a quick draw at high noon.
Yeah, it really
between
is.
Titus and I.
A very quick draw. High noon
That's
Eastern.
true. Well, yeah,
we
I was
got
going to say hi, 11.
fish in the holsters, and
Yeah, fish in the holsters. Yeah.
And so now, so I think what he did last time was Titus did one, then Katie did one, right? And then we had if there wasn't a winner, and we all asked questions, and then if there wasn't a winner, then just Titus and Katie had a showdown for all the marbles. And we can take questions from if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and pop your question in. It's 20 questions. They're going to think of a fish. And then for the sake of the podcast audience, Carolyn, could you introduce that? Thank you.
Sure thing. So in a moment we will do, sure. We will be doing our 20 questions. I'm going to give Titus and Katie a second to consider the fish that they are going to use.
Consider the fish.
Yes. And then I am going to flip a coin to see who will go first. I will be
this
back with
is
a coin
good.
in just a moment.
Yeah.
better be a loony.
Yeah. Well, they don't know what to do, right? They got to get new money now that the queen is.
Right, they've had to throw all their currency out.
Yeah. It's no good anymore.
So-
It's barely good to begin with. All right.
So my kids
At least
normally
it was
have a bunch
colorful.
of money around. But okay, so here we go. This is actually going to be, I'm going to flip this button. If the lake comes up, then Titus will go first. If the pin comes up, then Katie will go first. All right? Okay? It was the pin. It was the pin.
Yes.
So Katie,
We
actually
trust
no, you get the choice, Katie. Do you want to go first or second?
Oof. Actually, I'll go second. I'll let Titus go.
I'm going
In
to be
the
the question
spirit of-
counter.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. So Titus, we're
I
asking
have a
Titus
fish.
questions. You have
Yeah.
a fish.
And we'll go Carolyn, Katie, Stuart. And then if anybody chimes in with a question from the live audience, we will chime in with that.
All right. Does it have a backbone?
Yes.
Does it live in all 5 of the Great Lakes?
Yes.
Maybe.
Probably. High certainty of that.
High certainty of that.
That's good enough for me.
Does it inhabit the benthos?
Not exclusively, but it could be found there.
Okay.
Do people like to fish for it and eat it?
No.
Does it eat other fish?
It does not.
Could somebody find it and eat it like on a hot dog bun?
It is possible, but highly unlikely.
Is it a fish that other fish eat and it's important to them?
Yes.
Is it native to the Great Lakes?
Yes, it is.
Is it bigger than a hot dog bun?
It is smaller than a hot dog bun.
So how many more questions do we have?
You know, I've honestly lost count. I think we're at 9,
Okay.
so I think we have 11
Okay.
more questions. I can't count to 20.
I will give you a size, maximum size, or sort of an average size would be 2 inches long.
Is that total length or?
Total length, and maximum would be about 3.5. That would be the largest on the largest end.
We'll count that as a question. Thank you, though, Titus. All right, so now we're at 10.
Does it live in like the coastal areas and go up streams and stuff like that?
Yeah, you'd probably find it coastally or in small streams.
Do people harvest it for bait?
They do. Well, not really.
Not really. Okay.
Yeah, it's not what I would call a. Yeah, you wouldn't see it in a bait shop.
You're not going to see it in a bait shop. Okay, cool.
No.
I'm really out of questions. I will check the
So just
chat.
give your questions to Katie.
No. Let's see. My question
No.
is, how many? No, that's a terrible question. It has. Does it have teeth?
It does have teeth. I think most fish do, though.
Well, you can hold a bass by the thumb, right?
Yeah, but it's got teeth in there.
Oh.
They're just not really. It does not have big, sharp teeth.
So could I hold it by my thumb? I guess would be the yeah.
Yes, although it would be
If
really
it were-
hard to get
yeah,
your thumb
tiny
in its
thumb.
mouth.
I was going to say it's really tiny. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's a
no
small
Donald Trump
fish.
jokes. All right.
I will give you another hint. It is not a minnow or shiner. That'll.
Dang it!
All right. Another question. That counts as a question. We got 6 left.
I was going to ask something about it being a shiner, so I'll skip to you, Katie.
Does it typically have stripes?
Not really. Mottled coloration,
Mottled.
and it can be darker during spawning
I see.
time.
Okay.
For the males.
Does it have a seasonal migration pattern?
Not really.
All right, down to 4 questions.
Another. It does. If you
So
were
Titus
to
doesn't
pick
wanna
this
win.
up, or if you were a predator, there are some. It does have some methods of deterring predation.
We got 4
Pointy,
questions.
Does it-
pointy methods.
Pointy methods.
Carolyn, sorry, did you want to go? I have another question.
Is it a stickleback?
Oh, it is a stickleback. Which stickleback is
Oh,
it?
we got
though?
3 guesses. All right.
I was going to say,
And-
that was a strategic question.
And I've already one
Is
of my
it-
answers has already eliminated 2. So
Oh, all right. Now hold on. So if you have a guess,
Right.
we have the drum roll situation, I think. Let me just there it is. All right. Do you have a guess, Katie?
I think so.
All right, here we go. After
yes,
the drum roll.
I do.
That was not the drum roll. That was the symbol. All right, here comes the drum roll.
that's our new thing. Symbol, please.
Oh, I'm
Is
waiting
it
for
the nines? Oh. Is it the 9-spine stickleback?
So close, Katie. So close, but
No.
incorrect.
Eh, wah, wah.
All right. What's another stickleback, Katie? Four.
But-
All right. Is it the 4 spine stickleback?
It is not. That is incorrect. That is an invasive species in the Great Lakes.
I know that's the invasive one.
Oh man.
You've got
Actually,
one
there's-
native stickleback.
I got one more.
Is it?
Is it the brook stickleback?
You got it, Brooke Stickleback.
Wonderful. All right, so
Nice
that's a
work,
point.
Katie. Nice
a point
work.
for Katie. Good. All
Oh,
right,
that was
now.
a rough one.
Yeah, we got it. It wasn't rough. We got it. All right, Titus, your turn. Or no, Katie,
it's
think of one.
Katie's turn.
Titus, lead us off.
Well, so yeah, so I'm thinking of it. So
You had like 10 minutes.
Okay, so to keep it
Do you have
fair, we'll go
I
Carolyn,
have it, yeah.
Titus, Stewart for questions. Carolyn,
Okay.
Titus, Stewart, so that our inadequacies don't cause you guys problems. Okay. Does it have a backbone?
yes, it does.
Does it have a adipose fin?
No.
Is it bigger than a hot dog bun?
Yes, as an adult, but yeah.
Yeah.
Does it live in all 5 of the Great Lakes?
I believe so. Yes.
Is it native to the Great Lakes?
Yes.
Is it a relatively fast swimmer?
In short bursts.
It's a tuna. I know it.
Those Great Lakes tuna.
That does not. Anyway. Okay. Do people like to eat it and fish for it?
Fish for it, yes.
But they don't eat it.
Carolyn snuck 2 questions in. That was interesting.
Not typically.
I mean, they could.
How
They
about,
probably
does it
go to
have
Europe.
any
They
barb?
could.
Does it have any barbels?
Do they have any? No, it does
Barbels.
No
No
barbels. I like to fish
not.
for
No
it.
barbels.
Barbels. Is it is it brightly colored?
I wouldn't say really. No.
All right. And don't forget, if you have questions online, just go ahead and pop them in the chat. We'll find them. And it's got to be better than the lame questions I'm asking. So.
Is it a type of bass?
Yes.
Oh. All right. I feel like we could get this with 10 questions left. So let me know if you have a guess.
I think you
Titus.
guys are trying.
Coloration in the eye. Does it have a reddish eye?
Not really ish. No.
Okay. Does it have a series of black horizontal stripes down the side?
Not really not really a series.
Do they even have
Maybe
striped bass in
slightly,
the Great
depending on
Lakes?
colors.
Do they have striped bass in the Grand? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
No,
All right.
no.
So not a series. Okay.
No, it is not a striped bass.
Gonna get really awkward. If you run your finger, do you catch its
Probably yes. Yes.
All right, Titus. What you got?
Does the jaw reach behind the eye or in front of the eye?
Oh,
Behind the eye.
behind the eye. All right. I think it's
I
been a minute.
think you guys might know it.
I think it's been a minute, but it is my turn. So let's see. Is it a largemouth bass?
It is indeed. Oh,
That's
there
great
we go.
news.
I thought there was going to be a sound.
That was
yeah.
that was you saying
No,
woo.
that's just us going, yay!
That was you saying woo from the last time we did this, or maybe Carolyn. I can't remember.
Maybe whatever. I really can't. You got it. It is a
booing.
largemouth bass.
All right. So I
right.
think my suggestion, rather than do a runoff, is we just keep a running tally throughout the life of this. So right now
Okay.
it's 1-1.
Yes.
1-1. But
It
then
is,
that
yeah.
we run into problems for the big finish because where people are supposed to they get 30 seconds of soapbox time to promote whatever fish related thing they want to. So since we got Katie's in fewer guesses than we got Titus's, that means Titus, you get the soapbox.
You do
30
win.
seconds once I get you set up into the solo view. Take it away, Titus.
All right. Hey, everybody. It is fall. That means it is spawning time for a lot of trout and salmon, a lot of other species in the Great Lakes. Go out, find your local stream, and go check out some spawning fish. You can watch them swimming. It's really cool. You can get up close and see them. Find a dam that's close to the lake. You'll probably see some salmon there.
Excellent. And where, we'll talk about that later. That sounds good. Okay.
Yes.
I
Okay,
wanna know
awesome.
Yeah, that sounds good. I want to know where
So
to see
we're
fish
going to do
spawn.
this again in December.
Yeah.
So please watch social media. We're going to be reaching out to a couple of different groups to see if we can ask other questions. But Doctors Fish, thank you so much for joining us today. We had a great time asking you questions and picking your brains. So
That was
Thanks
a
for
lot of
having
fun.
us.
Yeah. All right. And Carolyn, do you want to read the credits?
I sure can. Ask Dr. Fish is brought to you by the fine people at Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, Wisconsin Sea Grant, and Goby Dog Media. This show is produced and hosted by Stuart Carlton, Carolyn Foley, Dr. Fish Katie O'Reilly, and Dr. Fish Titus Salheimer. The podcast version of the show is edited by the awesome Quinn Rose, and we encourage you to check her work out at aspiringrobot.com. The live version of the show is joyously unedited, and we hope we didn't screw anything up too badly. If you have questions for the Doctor's Fishes, send an email. Well, I can argue that one. Send an email to askdrfish@gmail.com. Use the Twitter hashtag AskDrFish, or call our hotline at 765-496 IISG.
Theme song's too
Thanks
short.
for listening, and we'll see you live on YouTube and Facebook at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central on the second Monday of every even month. So the next time is the 12th month of 2022. In between now and then, if you have fish questions, science questions, or life questions, just ask Dr. Fish.
Awesome. All right, let's thank you for tuning in live, and we will finish that, and we'll hang out for just a second. End the broadcast.